Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Regal podcast. Just with me today, and I am joined with Chloe Lees, who is a vegan artist, and we're going to be talking about a bunch of different motivations as to why she's vegan, the benefits or drawbacks from being vegan, and also a look into her views on the conscious and subconscious and how they interact with reality. So, hello, Chloe. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah.
Would you like
Hi.
to give a super quick introduction, who you are, what you do, what you're interested in, why you're here, all that sort of good stuff?
Yeah, hi, I'm Chloe. I'm a uni student at Norwich University of the Arts, where I'm studying fine art. Um, my art is motivated by concepts of mortality and how sensory perception facilitates sort of everyday mortal understanding. So, uh, basically just to define equality of human existence and reality, basically.
So nothing too heavy then.
No, no.
How did you find that inspiration then? Like, why is that what inspires you above all else?
So that's, well, basically because of it probably stems from my own experience, like with my mortality and sort of realizing how fragile like our human bodies are, basically.
Yeah, for sure. Like, there's a lot of things that can happen, and then they just sort of make you think, like, what if it just all ended? What if, you
Yeah,
never know at the end of the day.
no, you
What
don't.
was that sort of experience for you then?
Um, so I was in a car crash. I think is it 3 years ago? Yeah, 3 years ago now. So when I was 16, I think, yeah. Um, but yeah, that that was how that kind of started, just from being in a car crash and having that sort of near death
Mm.
experience. I became a lot more appreciative of sort of just everyday mundane things, really.
Mm. So, do you feel that that has had like the biggest impact on your art, why you create it, and your overall outlook on life?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, in relation to my everyday life, um, sorry, I'm just trying to think.
No problem.
I think that I know it's a bit sort of a bit cringy, probably a bit like cliche, but I definitely do sort of live life to the full more. I think I'm far more sort of experimental with things. I think my mum's definitely said before that like I've done things like after it happened, like I did things that I wouldn't have done a few months before. Like I sort of appreciate more the everyday counts, and I'm more sort of positive also about my abilities to do things. So
Mm.
um, maybe sort of, I don't know, less anxious about certain things because I just kind of think, well, you just got to go for it, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. I'm very much of the mindset of try within reason, try most things once, like try everything once. Because at the
Yeah,
end of the day, if
yeah,
you try it and don't
yeah.
like it, just don't do it again. It's not that big a deal. Most
Yeah,
decisions
exactly. Yeah.
are reverse. Exactly, most decisions are reversible anyway. So if you try something and
Yeah.
don't like it, it's like, okay, cool, just don't do
Yeah,
it
just
again.
move on then. It's fine.
So I think it's definitely a good thing that you've kind of broadened your horizons as such. You're more open to experiencing life because at the end of the day,
Yeah,
that's what life is, isn't it?
yeah,
Experience.
yeah. And I think that comes with sort of other things, just age and stuff as well. But that
Mm,
was definitely like a key moment for me, like the being in a car crash, like that really sort of
mm.
set it in my
Jolted.
head.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I get you. Yeah, sometimes not so good, but sometimes unfortunately it does take a traumatic event to then kind of
yeah,
open you up and unlock your kind of mind to new possibilities. So and what you say about
yeah,
age,
definitely.
I'm kind of experiencing as well. Like when you're younger, you kind of seem to share the same kind of opinions on things as your parents, maybe, or people who are raising you, or your peers. But as I've got older,
Yeah,
especially coming to university, for me anyway, I've kind of sort of been open to trying things and then being like, okay, you know what, that actually isn't as bad, or that's worse than I was told. I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
So is that kind of your experience as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I think obviously going to uni is another massive thing that
Hmm.
um, just sort of opens you to trying new stuff and just being more, I don't know, just open to
Yeah.
trying lots of new things, really.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, no, that's definitely good then. So, is you being open to trying new things the reason why you are vegan, or are you vegan for different reasons?
So um, obviously I haven't always been vegan. So
Mm.
I was pescatarian and then vegetarian for I think about 4 years or so total.
Hmm.
And then I became vegan, and now I've been vegan for almost 2 years, I think.
Hmm.
So um, I was quite aware of it from my mum because she's been sort of vegetarian, pescatarian for most of her life. So I think that um, that's definitely had like a lot of like a lot a lot of influence on me
Hmm.
because we've always kind of eaten quite vegetarian as a family. So I think the change to going vegan to me wasn't maybe as dramatic as it would be for some people because I was only cutting out sort of dairy, and before I was vegetarian, I only ate like chicken, basically chicken, fish, that just the basics.
Yeah, so it
Yeah,
wasn't that big of a leap for you then.
no.
Okay.
But I think saying that, like, I don't think that it's impossible for anyone. I think everyone could do it if you could do it gradually.
I think if I had a big enough motivation for doing it, I definitely could. But the
Yeah,
motivation for doing it isn't bigger than the how much I enjoy steak and eggs. So,
yeah, yeah.
so what is pescatarian? That's eating fish and vegetables, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, pescatarian is it's vegetarian. It's the same as vegetarian in the way that you don't eat
Hmm.
meat, but pescatarian is when you do eat fish, but you don't eat other meat, basically.
Why do they
But
make
I
that
think
distinction? Do you know?
I don't know, it's an interesting one because obviously like fish are animals,
Hmm.
but I think some people do it to obviously cut down on their meat intake,
Hmm.
but still feeling like they need the fish for sort of other reasons. I mean, as I said about my mum, like she was vegetarian for a very long time, and I think she started eating fish again, like when she was pregnant, because I think
Hmm.
she felt like she needed that sort of food.
Like the protein, the omega-3 sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. And obviously you can get that from other things. Like it's just you need to think about how you're eating and like
Hmm.
make sure obviously if you are vegan that you have got a balanced diet and you're getting everything that you need. But yeah, obviously that would be omega stuff, as you said, like that is very high in fish.
What would you say then to people that if they don't eat meat, they get very anemic very quickly, and they have maybe deficiencies in like calcium, protein? What would you kind of say to people who want to be vegan, but if they are vegan and they don't eat meat and they don't eat these natural sources of these different nutrients, they actually then get ill? Like, what would you kind of recommend for them?
I think you, I mean, you can get everything that you need from different like vegetables like spinach and beans, seeds, nuts, like are all high in kind of stuff that people might kind of always think that just meat has as
Mm.
well. So I think you just obviously if you do have those issues, I think you just need to research and you want to be vegan, I think you just need to research into what um other foods obviously have what you need. Because I mean you shouldn't be getting ill from being vegan, like
Mm.
I'm fine.
Okay, so it's just a case of researching, understanding which foods have the right
Yeah,
nutrients and
it's
eating them.
yeah, I mean, it's the same as if maybe I guess I get that it's maybe harder in some ways if you are
Hmm.
vegan, but it's the same as like if you're eating meat, you do need to have a balanced diet.
Yeah.
to get everything you need.
Oh yeah, for sure. There are plenty of people that get
Yeah,
ill
yeah,
who aren't vegan because they're just eating
yeah,
takeaways
yeah,
every day, for example.
yeah. But like chicken nuggets and stuff. Yeah.
At you 5 years ago. Do you find it's easier then? And this may just be because I'm not aware, but do you find it's easier to avoid things like takeaways? Because as far as I'm aware, there aren't as many vegan takeaways.
Sorry, you did cut out a
I
little
just
bit
cut
at
out.
the end.
Okay, no problem. I did think I did.
No, I
Um,
heard the takeaway
oh
bit.
yeah, so essentially, do you find it easier to avoid takeaways now and like save money and save the effect on the environment that has?
Um, I don't think I've ever been massively one to get loads of takeaways and stuff. I mean, I don't. I mean, people do have this sort of conception sometimes that veganism is really expensive, which I've never understood because obviously, like, different alternatives and different sort of like fake meat substitutes and like
Mhm.
things like that obviously can be expensive, but you don't. And I do like them. I'm not saying that I don't like these things, but you don't need to be buying that kind of thing to be vegan. Obviously, like some of the sort of cheapest like um, diets and meals in the world are vegan because it's all sort of grains and rice and vegetables and
Mhm.
everything like that.
Yeah, because when I think veganism, like my first thought is like soy milk, almond milk, and obviously that is then a
Yeah,
more expensive alternative to normal milk. So that's possibly where it comes
yeah,
from, just the
yeah,
association, the higher price.
yeah. I don't know how much normal milk is to be honest, but you can get like the big sort of cartons of soy milk for like 70, 80p. So I mean,
Oh,
I don't feel
fair
like
enough
that's
then.
massively
No, no,
expensive.
fair enough then. Actually, yeah, no,
You
I
can
oh,
obviously, yeah.
go on.
Oh, sorry. There's obviously like all of different like better brands and
Mm,
like you can get them for like you can find soy milk for probably like £2, £3, but you can get the same thing for cheaper as well. It's just
mm.
about not buying the branded stuff, I
Yeah,
guess,
that's fair.
isn't it?
To be fair, when I think soy milk or almond milk, I think Alpro, and they are
Yeah,
ridiculously
yeah,
expensive. They're like 250 a carton or something stupid.
yeah. Yeah, they're reduced sometimes to £1, but I don't get them if they're not.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, cool then. So you just there is like food available outside of just vegetables and fruit that you can eat that are actually more affordable because that was always one big kind of argument I've heard against veganism, which is it is so expensive, it's so inconvenient.
Yeah, I mean, I've never found it. I wouldn't say it was inconvenient at
Mm,
all, but I think um as it is like constantly becoming more popular and like just more of a well-known sort of thing,
mhm,
I think that it is stuff you can get stuff for cheaper, like, and it is a lot more accessible. Like I don't you don't ever really go anywhere now. Obviously, we can't go any out at the moment, but I never really go anywhere, and they haven't got at least sort of one or two options now.
Yeah, to be fair, even McDonald's has a vegan burger now, don't they? If I
Yeah,
remember
yeah. I
correctly.
mean,
Or
you
they
just
do.
got yeah, you just ask without mayo.
Yeah, yeah. That's
So
oh god, you
you
can't
got to
even have
say.
mayo. See, I always think,
Oh,
oh, veganism is not that bad, but then I'm like, you can't have eggs, you can't
yeah,
have cheese, you can't have meat. Oh no.
yeah, but there's all these alternatives. Like the vegan mayonnaise doesn't taste any different to normal
Fair.
mayonnaise, in my opinion.
To be fair, I've had
It's more
meat
expensive.
alternatives before, and it's not that bad. Like chicken meat, I've had as an
Yeah.
alternative. That's quite nice. The only vegan alternative I've had that I hate is cocktail sausages.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they taste
Yeah.
horrific to me. They taste like
I
feet.
don't know. I don't. I don't know. I don't really think I've tried. I had the corn ones when I was veggie, but I don't know. No, I don't really think that they're that great either, to be honest.
Oh, a
But
corn not vegan.
a lot of the corn stuff has like egg or milk in it. There's stuff that doesn't, but
Uh,
half of their stuff isn't vegan though.
right. Okay. Okay. So what's like the big brand for vegan food then?
Um, I mean, there's quite a lot now, as I say. Like,
Yeah.
it's definitely more of a sort of known, accessible kind of
There goes the headphone.
I knew that was gonna happen. Um, tiny ears. I've just lost it. Um, wait, what did you ask me?
I was just saying, like, what kind of brands do you normally go for then? If there was like a brand that was vegan food.
Oh, yeah. So I think Plant Pioneers is pretty good.
Mm.
Just trying to think. There are a lot though. I get quite a lot of tofu and things like that though, and that's not really much of a brand thing. Like I just
Mhm.
get whatever's sort of cheapest. But no, Plant Pioneers pretty good. Linda McCartney do quite a bit of vegan stuff as well.
Okay, fair enough then.
Yeah,
Sounds quite good then. To be fair, like at least there is
yeah,
that option, that variety now.
yeah.
What is tofu? Like I've heard of it, but I've never actually understood what it is.
Um, it's like um soybeans.
Mm.
I don't know how to describe it. You just get like blocks of it, or you can get it in different ways. But
I know it looks
you
like
might
it
need to
looks like
just
jelly, doesn't it? Almost.
um
I might be wrong. Hang on, let me Google it.
these in some ways maybe you can get sort of pressed and unpressed, so you
Right.
can
Okay.
get it so that it can be either firmer or
Oh,
more of a
okay.
jelly sort of
Oh no, I
consistency.
can see.
That's what you
Okay,
mean.
it almost looks like a block of
Yeah,
cheese or butter.
yeah, I guess
Okay,
so.
cool. Okay, cool. And looks like croutons when you've fried it. Okay, cool, cool.
Yeah,
That was just genuine curiosity
yeah.
of mine. I've
But
never
I
seen it.
think, no, I do really love tofu spoons because you can do a lot with it. You
Mm,
can make sort of like egg mayonnaise with it, and like if you mash it, or you can obviously put it in stir fries, and it's
fair play.
quite plain, so it really like I think it's really good in the way that you can just flavor it
Mm.
for whatever you wanna
Yeah, kind of
have
like
it
rice
for.
then or pasta. Very
Yeah,
plain and just sort of adds
yeah,
substance.
yeah.
Okay, cool, cool. Um, yeah, so one question that we kind of wanted to ask you then is specifically, what are your thoughts on factory farming as opposed to ethical hunting? So, you know, you go like, let's say, for example, I hunt ethically for argument's sake. I go out to a
Yeah.
forest. I know exactly how to kill an animal in like one clean shot. I know how to make sure that it's completely pain free for the animal. I know how to do it in a kind of ethical, kind way. Um, what are your thoughts then? Factory farming v ethical hunting.
Yeah, so if it's not obviously like recreational hunting and it is for food and like for
Mhm.
survival,
Mhm.
because you need to eat, then I do think that that's fine. Like I don't have any issues with that.
Mhm.
I think that yeah, I think it's much less cruel than factory farming because what you're doing is you're killing an animal that's sort of naturally come to exist in the wild. Like that's surely much less cruel than sort of the days, months, years, whatever of torture that animals endure in like factory farms. Like, yeah, I think it's quite different, and sort of all factory farmed animals have been like sort of genetically manipulated to produce more and produce faster. So
Mhm.
I don't know, it's quite unnatural because these animals sort of like grow twice as fast or just more than what is natural, which obviously then can result in, well, it does result in lots of health conditions and injuries. So yeah, I think factory farming is this sort of horrible, sort of endless mass cycle. You're not just killing something in the wild because um, you need to eat. Like it's different because for us, like if we want, I know that you're saying, I know this is sort of a what's the question? Oh, what's it called?
Hypothetical.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, hypothetical question. But obviously, and it is um, completely relevant. But obviously, for us, sort of in the Western world, like it's not the case. Like we don't hunt to get meat. So, you know, obviously, if we want meat, we're buying into this sort of artificial selection
Mhm.
to breed animals, like and pumping them with all these sort of maybe like kind of unnatural things like antibiotics, and as I say, like the growth hormones, and keeping them in sort of horrible conditions and slaughtering them with machinery. So
Yeah. Okay.
that's it's very different to the whole in the wild thing.
Yeah, yeah. So it kind of sounds like as long as you're doing it in like a kind of animal friendly way, for lack of a better term, it's not as bad as factory farming, which I agree is just
Yeah,
horrific.
yeah,
Okay, another
yeah,
hypothetical question for you then. So I know you kind of said like in the Western world we don't need to hunt to eat to survive. I completely agree. There is no necessity for
yeah,
it, because at the end of the day, you go around the corner. Like I've got a Tesco right round the corner from my flat.
yeah,
Go there, get whatever I need.
yeah,
What if I kind of agreed with you. I said I don't want to contribute to factory farming, and equally I don't want to contribute to global warming and that whole kind of pandemic that's happening. So as a result, I want to basically hunt ethically in a forest near my flat, and kind of get my meat and my food through that, rather than going to these shops and giving money to factory farms, or having this extra packaging and these additives. So the additives affecting my body and the packaging obviously affecting
yeah.
the environment. Would you then say, aside from being vegan, that is probably the better way to live your life in terms of ethics and helping the environment, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you're not gonna do that, but
Well, no, I don't have a forest near me,
yeah,
unfortunately.
but yeah, I mean, if you felt like you really that's what you wanted to do, and you really felt like you did need to eat meat. I mean,
Mhm,
obviously, you don't have to do that at all.
mhm,
Then that's okay because it's. But I think the issue is um, this just the mass consumption and the mass um, sort of killing of animals that is the issue.
mhm.
But if you're going to do it in your forest around the corner, it's completely different.
Yeah, I'll go find a forest and live off that. I'll just live in the forest. That'll work. Cheaper rent anyway. So okay, so yeah, that makes a lot of sense then. So it's just a kind
Yeah,
of do you feel then that if everybody, like if we could somehow have everybody reduce their meat consumption to the point where maybe it's once a day or once a week sort of thing, do you think then
yeah,
that could kind of solve a lot of the issues that come from like factory farming and sort of hurting the animals, genetic engineering, that sort of stuff?
yeah. I mean, if everyone did cut down on the amount of meat that they eat, um, it would have a massive, like, massively positive impact on the environment as well.
Hmm.
Like, there are studies that prove that as well. Because I have my notes for like different stats for Harry, because Jack said that Harry likes his stats.
Yeah, he does. He does. I mean, feel free
I'll
to
let
share
you.
them.
Yeah. So there's a University of Oxford study that if everyone cut down meat and dairy from their diet, oh, if everyone completely cut, which
Hmm.
obviously I know is like the extreme, um, there would be like a 49% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from food production.
Hmm.
So that's a lot. A 70% reduction in the land use for food production as well, because 67% of deforestation is for agriculture, and obviously, um, so for the need for land for animal feed and the fields for animals. Um, so yeah, so it also this Oxford University thing also kind of says that if every family in the UK swapped just like one red meat meal a week to a plant-based meal, the environmental impact would be the same as taking 16 million cars off the road. So
Fair enough.
it's
Yeah.
pretty big.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
You dropping the numbers then.
Yeah.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I have read studies before, and unfortunately, I don't have it here with me. But I've read studies before that kind of then try and argue the opposite. So yes, getting rid of the like the meat production, the farming, etc., would reduce greenhouse gases, and then it would kind of reduce the deforestation because you wouldn't have to build the farms, for example. But equally, would would that extra land that's been freed up then not get taken up by farms for the new need for plants and vegetables, and equally the factories needed to turn certain like beans and seeds into the food that can then be eaten?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, um, sorry, I literally know I had a note on
No problem.
this. But sorry, can you just like repeat the little last bit again?
Yeah, no problem. So essentially, could if everybody was to then switch to plant-based diets, dairy, not dairy, vegan diets essentially, the
Yeah.
extra like the decrease in deforestation, the decrease in greenhouse gases, would that not have then been counterweighted by the new factories that have to be produced to deal with this demand for vegan foods, to like process the food into tofu for argument's sake, and
Yeah.
also that extra land that's not being kind of used up now raising animals, would that not then be used to actually grow the vegetables, grow the fruit, grow the plants in general for the vegan diet?
Yeah, so obviously, I mean, at the moment, all of these sort of plants and vegetables or whatever, they are grown and um but they're not but we aren't the ones eating them, like it's the animals eating them. So we are already growing like masses and masses of these crops. Like we're using the land to do that already. Yeah, it's then going to these animals that we're eating. So we could just it's kind of like just need to you can cut out that middle part
Mm.
and it could just go straight to us.
Okay, so like cut out the middleman and just eat the food that the animals at the moment are eating.
Yeah.
Okay,
And like
go on.
yeah. I think that it's veganism is also like much more like if you don't care about the animals say it's much more ethical in sort of combating world hunger as well because obviously as I said like a lot of the food that's grown in the world isn't being eaten
Mm.
by people like it's so much of it is going to the livestock that we then eat so
Mm. Yeah.
I
Okay.
think
Yeah.
we do sort of grow enough to feed everyone, like to feed the world, but
Mm.
because we're feeding all of this stuff we've grown to the animals, we actually then don't end up not having enough.
Could it be an issue? And feel free to prove me wrong. I don't have a clue. But could it not be an issue that if all of a sudden, like everybody's vegan, everybody eats essentially the food that the animals are eating, could it not then be the case that we end up eating all the food, so then the animals then don't actually have anything to eat?
Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, I get you. But there wouldn't be as many, there wouldn't be these masses of animals if we weren't sort of mass breeding them in the first place.
Okay, okay. So we
So
wouldn't need to mass breed them, so there wouldn't be like you wouldn't need that much food in the first
it
place.
wouldn't be that insane amount, yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That actually makes a lot of sense then. Okay. Fair enough. Um, last sort of question specifically relating to your like vegan lifestyle, vegan diet is do you feel as an artist that since becoming vegan slash being vegan offers you a different perspective from most people? Specifically, do you find that it's helping or hindering you getting in touch with your creative side to produce your art?
Yeah. So I think that obviously anything about like it's a part of me and anything about anyone is going to alter and sort of influence their perspective. So it is part of my everyday perspective and like my everyday reality. I think also in relation to sort of viewing other people's artworks, I think that I sometimes see. different things maybe more objectively. So I've recently, my last sort of uni essay, I've recently written a piece about, I don't know if you know Slaughtered Ox by Rembrandt. It's basically just this painting of a carcass that's hung up on these wooden beams. Are you Googling
Yeah,
it?
I'm gonna Google it. I won't show it on here just because I don't know how explicit it is. But
Oh, it's literally just a
oh,
carcass.
oh,
It's not
okay,
even.
okay, cool. I will drag this across now. Okay, cool. Continue.
Yeah, so I think instantly I'm sort of not just seeing this carcass. I'm not just seeing this carcass as a piece of meat, like I'm seeing it as um, the sentient being that's lost its life because of human action. I don't know if I think that my perspective does sort of differ in that way because I don't know if you how you see it, maybe perhaps more as like just like a body or like a bit of meat at first, whereas I kind of just think instantly sort of think about the animal.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
but I think that it influences my perspective in analysing these other works. And I don't know, I perhaps like have a bit more of a sort of enlightened sort of appreciation
mm,
of that kind of thing. But yeah, I think, and then I think also in consideration of my own artwork and my sort of vegan perspective, whatever,
mm,
helps me in see my other concepts of mortality and reality because I'm not just thinking about human life and my own life. I'm thinking about life of sort of all beings and
yeah,
the existence of other beings as well,
yeah.
and just sort of like the fragility of all bodies and not just human bodies.
Yeah, definitely. Because yeah, you definitely have a slightly different perspective to me. Because like when I look at that painting, it's disturbing to look at, but I don't consider right that cow had a
Yeah,
life. Maybe they had
yeah,
like what maybe cows called calves. You know, they had parents. They've lived this
yeah,
life. Like that isn't where my mind goes. It just kind of goes. Oh, it's a picture of a slaughtered cow. That's not very nice to look at. So yeah, you definitely
yeah,
have that kind of unique perspective, not just to consider your own mortality, but also the wider world. Everything in it has
yeah.
life.
I,
So
yeah, I think I sort of consider the relations between human and animal life quite a lot as well.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, fair enough. I know that like I've kind of considered it before because I always find, specifically with like apes, I find it really, really kind of weird that we hunt or hunted anyway apes. I know it's illegal, but I've always found it weird that we do that, considering how similar. Like I know, like you
yeah,
can look at a cow and say, okay, well I'm not much like a cow, to be honest. Unless people think I am, who knows? But like with like apes and specifically like monkeys, apes, gorillas, you're so similar to them,
yeah,
and you almost see
yeah.
a human element in them.
I think yeah, it can be kind of a bit sort of unnerving
Hmm.
sometimes, like remembering how similar like we are to them, obviously. And um I think that people kind of don't also think about, I know we're talking about apes, but if you think of like pigs and different animals, I know that pigs are sort of just as intelligent as
Hmm.
dogs, obviously, and actually like 3-year-old humans as well.
Jeez, yeah,
And I think, I don't know, I think that's something to think about.
yeah. No, it
That
is
you're
kind of
not just
strange.
killing
Yeah.
these sort of like brainless things. So
Yeah, no,
yeah,
it's because if you kind of like the way I'm looking at it now, it's like essentially we are just more advanced animals. Like, because that, I mean, that is effectively what evolution
yeah,
is,
yeah,
isn't
that
it?
is all
We're
we are.
more
Yeah,
advanced, exactly.
yeah,
So it's kind of when you look at it from the flip side, though, if there was another species on Earth that was more advanced than us, does that then give them the
mm.
right to eat us and put us in farms and
Or like breed us in factories and
exactly,
sort
yeah,
of forcibly sort of. I mean, cows are forcibly impregnated. Like they put like the bull semen like inside them
oh,
so that they can be pregnant because obviously for milk production, cows don't produce milk if they haven't had
Oh, yeah.
calf, do they? So
Mm,
these cows are like constantly forced to be um like giving birth to these calves, which are also taken away from them like after like literally like a few hours or like a day or something like that. So
mm.
they don't even get the chance to like establish any of these sort of mother-child relationships or anything just because we want some milk.
Yeah, to be fair, that's weird. I didn't know they did it like that. It's not very
No,
romantic, is it?
it's no, I know it's strange because you kind of when you kind of think about it, it's like of course they need to have kids in order to produce milk, like every mammal.
Mm.
But like, and it seems like a strange thing. But then I don't know, yeah, when you hear it, then it kind of seems a bit strange.
Yeah, no, it's weird to think that you have to force that. Yeah, like obviously, you need to be pregnant or have kids or whatever to be able to like
Yeah.
give milk. But yeah, you never think about it like that. I just always assumed, oh, cows, milk. That's kind of it.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. But then obviously, like, there's, I don't know, do all mammals produce milk?
Um, I'll
Or
Google it.
like a lot of them do. A lot of them do. But what it's really strange to think. What other mammal drinks another animal's milk throughout all stages of their life as well?
Yeah, yeah, good point actually.
No other animal sort of drinks another animal's milk throughout being an adult,
All
let alone
mammals.
like being a child.
Oh yeah, no. To be fair, yeah, no.
So
To be fair, that is weird. Now you say it, that is weird.
it's
Like,
pretty grim actually.
yeah, because you don't see a goat
I
like
think it's
sucking on the
pretty
udder of a cow, do you?
no.
All
It's actually like
mammals, all mammals do
sorry.
produce milk, but not all
Yeah,
of them have teats, so they can't necessarily feed that milk,
right.
which
Okay.
makes no sense. They just have milk chilling.
Yeah, no, that doesn't make any sense.
But
Right.
that's weird though. I mean, to be fair, yeah, when you look at it like that, it's like because we are all animals and we are all
Yeah.
mammals, and like if
I
we're the
mean, it's
only,
the same.
go on.
Yeah. I mean, flip it. Like, think about what if like fully grown cows were drinking human milk?
Oh.
What?
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, okay. That's kind of creeped me out. Thanks for that. I won't eat the lasagna I was gonna have for dinner now.
I'm sorry. I'm sure you will.
No, I will. But okay, yeah, that's kind of interesting way of looking at it, though. Um, yeah. Oh, creepy, creepy. Yeah. Okay. Cool. If it's all right with you, then I kind of want to move on to like your car crash, your near-death experience, and your
Yeah,
kind of experiences with that.
yeah, that's fine.
So yeah, you obviously you sort of had your car crash, and from what you've said, I actually watched one of your videos on your YouTube channel talking about the sights of pain and
Yeah,
pleasure, and you talk about being surrounded by people who are on end of life palliative care, and how you kind
yeah.
of describe that as hallucinogenic and surreal. Kind of what made you describe the experience as that?
Well, so I can kind of start with what happened, like sort of
Mhm.
in the car crash,
Mhm.
because I feel like otherwise I'm just suddenly in
Yeah,
A&E.
okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. um, so it was obviously Jack who's driving. Um, me and another guy back from a party the night before. I think it's about like 9. I think it's like, well, I know it's 9:15 in the morning. um, and it was snowing, and so we skidded. I say obviously, but I mean it didn't have to happen. But before we get in the car, actually, Jack goes, "Oh, I've never driven in the snow before."
Not a good sign.
um, no, but yeah. So he went around this turn, and I think he ended up skidding a bit too far, and then sort of his automatic response was to brake, which is obviously you know that you
Yeah,
don't do that
no.
on ice, but it's just that sort of
Yeah, it's the
instant
instant
reaction to
reaction.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, we ended up sort of flipping over and going into a ditch. I got at that point I kind of got knocked out because of the impact to my face. So we don't actually know what it was, but I think it was the guy sat next to me. He was actually wearing quite a heavy watch, and I think he
Ooh.
like whacked me in the face
Ooh.
as we were flipping over.
Ouch.
And in yeah, in cars, like I don't know if you've heard like when something's like flipping over, or like it's at that sort of speed or whatever in the air, like really light things even can become very heavy and very dangerous. So even like a tissue box can sort of turn into a brick. So not
Oh,
literally,
jeez.
obvious. But in the kind of impact that it can have on sort of our bodies or whatever, that is how it is. um, but yeah, I remember like waking up upside down. I didn't really realize I was upside down. That's not really, even though you'd probably think that'd be something you'd realize, it's just not. But I, because of this impact to my face, like I do remember saying like, "Oh, I can't see," because he kind of hit me in the eye. But then, so after kind of getting out, squeezing out the car because the doors weren't open, um, obviously sort of just sat and then waited for the ambulance and whatever to come. I don't really massively, I do remember it, but people have said things about it. Like even last night, I was just talking to Jack about it, and he was saying about there being like loads of different vehicles there, and all I remember is like one ambulance. But it's just shocked is like really strange things too, and to your memory, obviously it's pretty sort of distorted. But so yeah, I mean, I think really the worst part of it for me as well was the ambulance journey, just because obviously they strapped me down, and like what I was thinking about at the time was how I just didn't like being strapped down. Like I didn't really feel anything on my face. I was just like, oh, like,
Yeah.
oh.
Pinned down. Claustrophobic.
Yeah. And also like I get kind of car sick, and like lying down the ambulance. It wasn't just because of this. It was because I was swallowing a lot of blood. Like they had to keep like fully
Oh,
body flipping me over so I could throw up all this blood onto the floor.
jeez.
But yeah, so in A&E, so when we got there, well, when I got there, um, it was, as you say, like, well, as I said, a hallucinogenic and surreal experience to have sort of these people. I obviously couldn't see anything because, like, you're strapped down, all I could see was the ceiling, but it was just like the awareness of that, the different sort of presences, and being able to hear people and hear things. It's really strange because I can't think about what was around me because all I can see is the ceiling, but you can hear different things going on, and you can hear, I don't know, not nice things. But there was someone, I don't know if it was next to me, but pretty close, that was she was clearly sort of choking on like the fluid in her lungs and not being able to breathe, and that was really quite like sort of
Yeah.
like distressing, I guess. But I don't know, it's, yeah, I think I was quite aware of like the other people around me sort of receiving this sort of palliative sort of end of life care, because you could tell that some of these people, their families were sort of there, and it wasn't a let's try and save this person, it was a
Let's make them
let's
comfortable.
just try and make this comfortable. But yeah,
So it's kind of just you're almost out of it because
yeah,
of that head injury.
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I was that out of it, but I don't know. It's strange. I think more than the head injury, it's the shock, because there's certain things where, or like at the time, I'm kind of talking about. I was completely fine. The only thing that was like annoying me was the fact that I was a bit cold, which is it's ridiculous. But like that's the thoughts going through your head. And I think looking back on it, like that's part of that sort of hallucinogenic experience where you're thinking like, oh my god, like this was happening to me. I was in this situation, yet I just remember thinking, oh, I'm a bit chilly.
Yeah, fair enough. So it's kind
Yeah.
of the injury kind of becomes a side part of what's going on. I mean, yeah, that could have been
Yeah,
something your
yeah,
mind does
yeah,
to focus
definitely.
and deal with the trauma, maybe. Like, focus on the fact that you're cold rather than the
Yeah,
fact that you've obviously been injured. Oh. Have you fully recovered from that
yeah,
now, though?
yeah. So, at the time, basically, what it was, so I had, 'cause obviously this was all messed up. Like I had a lot of bleeding, like behind my eye, and I never saw this, but apparently it was like this bit of my face was, and my eye was like tennis ball sort of size.
Ooh.
Um, I know. Glad I didn't say that. But so what they had to do, like as an emergency operation, was sorry if this is a bit like sort of
It's
squeamish
fine
and
with me.
people think, ugh, but they had to like um get a scalpel and like cut into my eye and then get like little scissors and like sort of cut down here to
Yeah.
release all this blood so that it could
Oh, God.
for about like a week.
Jeez.
But it went
Yeah.
down quite a way. But I just remember like throughout the week I had all this like not I don't want to not both sides, just this side.
Yeah.
All this blood sort of like dripping and leaking out because obviously else if you don't release all that pressure then that was the that was the main sort of concerning thing, that if that pressure wasn't released then it would have gone into my brain and like given
Yeah.
me brain damage or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You can see
So I
out of
think
that eye now.
that that's the yeah, it's fine, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
it's okay. I get a bit of like double vision sometimes, but
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough
it's
then.
better than other possibilities.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that was the sort of probably the closest part to the end of life sort of mortality experience because they said to my parents and to me, but this is something that I don't remember, and my dad doesn't actually remember it either because I think that's a bit of a shock thing as well. But my mum sort of remembers them saying, if this doesn't work, then we're going to have to airlift her to Nottingham so that she can have this operation that does have a very high mortality rate. So,
Oh, jeez.
but that didn't happen. That didn't
Yeah.
happen because the eye slicing worked out. So.
Okay, good. Good. Okay, that's good then. I'm glad you've like fully recovered bar the double
Yeah,
vision.
yeah,
But like you say, that it
yeah.
could have been a lot
Yeah.
worse.
Oh, it really could have been. I mean, obviously got like nobody would notice, but I've got like scar. I obviously got the scar like there, and then like on my nose.
Mm.
I've got my nose is on a bit of a wonk because obviously broken. I've got I kind of like broke from like my cheekbone like to like across the other side of my nose.
Ooh.
So I can feel like the crack there, which is a bit
Oh,
gross
yeah.
as well.
Is that the other
And then
one?
here it is. And then yeah, but the only lasting things just like little nothing things like that, and then like got a bit of like nerve damage sort of here. So like when you hit your funny bone and like it's all like your nerves are like
Mm.
tingly.
Yeah.
Feels like that when I touch my nose.
Oh, jeez. Oh, God. I mean, that could be quite fun, though. I bet that feels well weird.
It's a bit odd.
Someone touches your nose, you're just like, whoa. Jeez.
It's just a bit strange.
Yeah, well, at least your injuries aren't too bad then. And worst case, like with the scars, at
No,
least you know
they're pretty.
you can kind of cover up the scars if you really wanted to. But
It doesn't bother me anyway. It's fine.
well, if it helps, I
Yeah, I
can't
think
tell that your
maybe
nose
at
is
first
wonky
it was a
either.
little bit. Okay.
Um,
But then people that didn't see me, I feel like people that didn't know me before
oh yeah,
can't
good,
because
yeah,
that's like
yeah, good
this is
point.
the only face that they know. But
Yeah, true. I bet that was weird for like
yeah.
Jack then, because he obviously knew you before because he was driving. So I bet that was kind of weird for him.
Yeah, I mean he always says that he didn't notice any difference in my face, but then he also did it, so he wouldn't say that he did, would he?
Oh,
But,
God.
he obviously like I'm with him now, but I wasn't then.
Mhm.
I'd only been chatting to him for like I think like a month or
So you
two.
got with him after he crashed you?
I did, yeah.
Jeez. He must be a really good cook or something. Jesus Christ.
He's not good. Wait, don't. Oh, he's gonna listen to this. Sorry, Jack. Your toast is lovely.
Oh dear. Oh dear. So it's fine if you don't want to share this, but like, what? Why did you still get with him even after he did crash the car? Like, what? Like, what was your reason for that? Because I know
I
somebody, if somebody nearly killed me, essentially, I wouldn't then be
Yeah,
happy to
I
date
don't
them.
know. I've never. I know I joke about
Yeah,
oh he did it or whatever, but I've
yeah,
never really seen it like that. It's just something that happened, and I don't see it as
yeah.
something that he did.
Oh no, it was
So
definitely an accident. Like,
yeah. Oh, oh yeah, yeah.
um,
But yeah, so I don't see him as having crashed the car. I just see it as something that happened to both of us. So I
yeah,
don't
that's fair.
know. I guess it's a bit of a shared trauma thing or something.
Do you
Like
feel that
that.
having that shared trauma, that shared experience, actually like has strengthened your relationship somewhat?
Yeah, it. I think it probably has. I mean, I feel as though we got together pretty quickly because I mean we got together like a couple of weeks after that happened.
Mm,
I think. Yeah, it sounds strange to like say to me because it doesn't. That month was a very long month, but
mm,
yeah. So I think that it definitely like kick-started the relationship quicker than what it might have been otherwise.
mm.
And I think then it probably has also strengthened
Yeah,
certain
definitely.
things as well.
I know there's a lot of like reports of people going through the same sort of experiences, the same traumas, and it actually does then make the relationship stronger. Because like, at the end of the day,
Yeah,
you're talking about your experience with me now, and I understand what you're saying, and I can kind of imagine it, but I could never like really put myself in your shoes and say like, this is what it's like to be in a car crash, this is what it's like to be
yeah,
here, and that sort of stuff. So
yeah. But then in some ways, I kind of, if I'm talking about it, I kind of think like, oh, was that me? Like that actually happened? Like you kind of, I don't know. I feel like I obviously am very connected to it, but in some ways, it's a bit of a, it's like it's happened to someone else. Like I'm a bit
mm.
disconnected in other ways.
So it's almost like you're like, yeah, I get you. So it's almost like you were watching it happen to somebody.
Yeah, like yeah, it's just that sort of real part of that kind of thing.
Mm.
You know?
Mm. Okay, yeah, I
But I
get
think
you.
that yeah, like as you kind of said earlier, I think that that's how part of how sort of you deal with it as well.
Mm. Yeah, I know. Yeah, to be fair, I know that for the brain and like the mind, it can be quite traumatic to literally, if you were to
Yeah,
literally sit and comprehend and deeply understand, right? Okay, you nearly died here, etc., etc. Because the mind
yeah,
creates distractions for itself to deal with like mortality every day. That's why, for
yeah,
example,
yeah. Oh yeah,
that's why we have trophies and medals. Like they only exist because
yeah.
trophies and medals mean nothing. The reason we have them
No,
is so that we can make life seem meaningful, essentially.
yeah.
To
And
put
feel like we're accomplishing something and there's a
exactly,
purpose.
exactly. When in the reality, the only real need for human life, essentially, is to survive, in terms of like eating,
Yeah,
breathing, drinking, having children,
yeah,
continuing the species, improving the species. Anything
yeah.
else is purely in
It's just
existence for
yeah,
to deal with the mortality, essentially.
yeah,
So, looking at your art as well, just to go on a slight tangent, your art is, as you kind of touched on earlier, very focused around the senses and sensual experience, and that sort of kind of focus. First of
yeah.
all, does this focus and almost fascination with the senses and their experiences come from your near-death experience? And also, if not, or if yes, then why is your focus so much on the senses, particularly like the tongue, the mouth, the teeth, that sort of thing?
Yeah. So I think that I don't know. I think the way that you obviously picked up on the mouth, the tongue, the teeth, like
Hmm.
the sort of repetition of that throughout my work is quite interesting because I do sometimes I'm not fully always sure why I like doing stuff with
Yeah,
the mouth so much. Because you think like if it was if you were if I was considering what happened to me in the car crash and what was affected, I'd surely be doing a lot more about my eye and
yeah,
like eyes and just that kind of area. But I think um, so. Thinking about this sort of sensory, um, just how my work like heavily focuses on the senses. I think that that's all to do with my interest of sort of what we take in to build realities and to build our reality, and how sensory perception sort of facilitates our reality. Um, I think that thinking about the mouth, um, I think that in sort of our everyday routine, and like as you say, like all the stuff we do to sort of avoid, all the stuff our brain does to avoid this sort of overall truth that like we are mortal. I think that eating and like the sense of taste is such a key part in everyday routine. Like we obviously like repeatedly do it every single day, if we want to stay alive. But so yeah, I also think that sort of taste is probably like arguably the most sort of invasive and personal
Hmm.
sense, in the way that like food, like the object of your sense, is being consumed. Like you're taking that into yourself and into your body. Like you don't do that in the same way with your other senses. Like you don't physically put it inside you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I just I focus on the mouth quite a lot because it is obviously then so like intensely personal. And I think obviously with art you're always trying to evoke a reaction, and I think that that sort of invasiveness does evoke maybe like the most strong reaction in relation to sensory perception.
Mm.
So
Mm. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Because a lot, I like, I've kind of
yeah,
obviously talked to you about this before, but I've been like, I've got some of your art up here actually. That's kind of what I'm looking at. And a lot of your
yeah,
art makes me feel uncomfortable. And it sounds like that's almost your intention with it. Has
yeah,
the earbud's gone?
yeah.
You'll be remembered as the girl with the small ears on the podcast.
When I smile, my ears obviously move, so they're squeezing them out.
This is why I wear this. I
um,
usually have my earphones falling out, but not today.
okay. um, so yeah, I think obviously art is supposed to make people think, like fine art, like what I do, it is supposed to make people think, and it's supposed to evoke some kind of reaction. Like I'd say like no reaction is the worst reaction. Like
Yeah.
people can tell me people say they absolutely hate my stuff, and like that's just as interesting as if someone loves something of mine.
So with art,
Yeah.
it's a case of being you're trying to be
Yeah,
polarizing one way or the other. So if people love it, people hate it. That's
yeah,
good. It's
yeah.
just being, because I suppose being indifferent is being forgotten, and that's not what you want as an artist.
Yeah, and that's no. I think that just I think in relation to like you saying that stuff kind of makes you feel unsettled or anxious, I think that that's just sort of also like intrinsically linked in what I am looking at, because obviously in looking at mortality and sort of exposing those concepts that we probably kind of like try to sort of bury every day through doing these other sort of meaningless things. I think obviously intrusively sort of exposing that, people are going to feel uncomfortable,
Mm.
even if maybe they don't fully know what the work is about at some point. Like they just looking at these different things and these different bodily things, they are going to make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, like I find the more that I look at it, the more I understand, but equally the more uncomfortable I feel, and the more kind of questions I have, and it's kind of like an ongoing process of there's always another element that I kind of focus on.
Yeah, yeah. I sort of what I probably do sort of overall is sort of layering sort of subject matter of sort of daily and like subconscious acts to explore these different boundaries between sort of like commonplace perception and reality, and like compared to sort of the more raw, sort of sensuous expositions of life.
Mm.
So
Mm.
it's, I don't know, it's that kind of, just like that kind of manipulation of these things from like just your physical sort of commonplace. Um, I think that when I'm manipulating stuff, it always it kind of turns out quite dreamlike, and quite a lot of that sort of imagery. And I think that that again sort of exposes this other fragile stream of consciousness
Mm.
slash like subconsciousness.
Mm. Do you ever paint then or create art directly from your dreams? Like, do you dream about a bunch of random mouths floating about?
I did do a project on dreams in like, I think it's like, it might have been in year 11 to be honest,
Mm.
quite a
Oh
long
God,
time ago.
throwback, yeah.
So yeah, I had 1, 2, 3, was that 5 years ago? No, I don't know, something like that. That seems crazy.
Are you year two? You're
I don't
second year at
know.
uni now.
Yeah. Second year, yeah.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
12, 4 years ago.
Mm.
Yeah. So I have done that before, but I never keep, obviously, like one of the kind of obvious things you probably do if you were doing that is keep a dream journal and like obviously write and draw from dreams. And I did do that, but I didn't find it. I don't know. I found that in that period of time, I sort of stopped having dreams, so it wasn't massively useful. You know, when you go through phases of like you're either having dreams every single night or you
Yeah.
just stop having them completely.
Yeah, that's exactly how I am.
Yeah.
I go through phases where I have dreams literally every night. And
Yeah.
also, my dreams are never anything meaningful. Like, they're always random. Like, there's just
No.
some weird
No.
shit that goes on.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know. I think it's just the fact that these things do look dreamlike just because they're part of our subconscious rather than the fact that I take things from
Okay.
dreams.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So the inspiration comes from the actual raw subconscious, and that's just kind of shown through your art.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And sort of just being just like our consciousness and sort of like the more sort of mundane sort of flat reality and how that influences our subconscious.
Hmm. Interesting, and it definitely produces interesting art. Like obviously I've just got it up, so yeah, it's interesting to say the least. Even if it does make me feel uncomfortable and not want to eat. uh, so if you're so fascinated with the taste in particular, you know, like because it's so personal, it's so intrusive, would it be not be more beneficial to you, your interests, and your art overall if you were to eat meat and a wider range of foods and textures and tastes more specifically? Do you not feel that it almost limits you because you are limiting your diet, therefore you can't experience as much as possible with your taste?
Yeah, I think that's a really fair question, but I really do think, and I think that probably a lot of other vegans, vegetarians, whatever, would probably agree that I've found that I've tried so much more food and different things as a consequence of being vegan, because I think that meat, obviously, like, obviously, it is cutting down your range of foods, but I think that when you're eating, when you get stuck in that sort of routine of eating the same thing all the time and eating these meats, like meat is then more limiting in that way.
Hmm.
I think that I've been motivated to try like lots more sort of new recipes and new
Hmm.
ingredients. Like as I say, like as you said, like tofu or whatever I've tried, like not. Good, I'm getting headphones for my birthday. Good Jack. but yeah, so I've also kind of experimented with different sort of substitutes. Like, I don't know if you've heard of jackfruit and banana blossom.
Yeah.
These different sort of plant things that can do different stuff with, and then that's just sort of just made me more creative and resourceful and just like adventurous with different food types and different things like that. So I think that it actually, even though initially it would make sense to say, yes, like I have limited myself, I really feel the opposite, and I really feel that it's really like broadened my what I eat and
So so because you've actually limited what you can eat overall, you're kind of more willing to eat what you can eat and make use of everything you can actually eat.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's obviously like a lot more. Like people don't even eat that much of a range of meat. Like it's just the same kind of dairy things and the same sort of few animals that we eat anyway. So
True.
I don't think that it just actually cut out much. In my view, I don't see it like that.
Yeah, no, that kind of makes sense. Because like you kind of said, you ate a lot of chicken. Like that was kind of your main food.
Yeah.
I eat a lot of beef, whether, like it was mince, meatball, whatever. Like my main food kind of is beef. But I suppose, like I've never really... I suppose, I eat meat, but I've never thought, oh, you know what, let's go try goat meat or kangaroo meat. Or, I've never thought, right, let's go try a bunch of different meat. So...
Yeah.
Yeah, kangaroo's a weird example. I don't know why I use kangaroo meat.
That's an odd one.
The weirdest I've ever heard and had the opportunity to try but didn't was, I believe it was alligator meat. And it was actually in the Lincoln market. There was a guy there selling like 7 or 8 different weird meats. Yeah. I didn't end up trying it though because I was like, alligators are terrifying. Don't really want to eat one of them.
Yeah, fair enough.
With your art and kind of relating to your car crash, your near-death experience, you touched on in your Sites of Pain and Pleasure video that you obsessively try to interact with and embody your trauma. What do you mean by that specifically? What kind of thing does that involve?
I mean, because obviously that was from one of my art videos. I was just kind of talking about the fact that I use my art to interact with and embody kind of this experience. But I think, I mean, that's probably the same as anything, because you do, not just artists, but you do take personal experience from everything, like from your observations and experiences. And I think that whether you're doing art or whatever, you are always, I think it's more clear, it's more visual in art that you are embodying and sort of interacting with these things. But I think that everyone does it in certain different ways.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's definitely true that everybody has a different experience of reality based on their senses and the way they look at the world and all that sort of stuff. Even like you, for example, you've got a different understanding of reality based on your own dietary changes, your own experiences and that sort of thing. So, obviously we kind of agree that the unconscious essentially can have a better understanding of reality because by default it's not affected by the senses and our own kind of perceived limitations, etc. So do you believe that there is almost an element to reality that we can't or don't understand because we are limited by our senses?
I think that I don't know, before like thinking about any of that, I think that the sort of the actual definition of reality, like just in itself, is kind of interesting because obviously like the definition of reality is all that's real and sort of the state of like what actually exists. But I don't think that, like, as opposed to what's just imaginary or just subconscious things, but I don't think that what I think of as reality does just include these sort of physically existing things. So I don't know, I kind of think that the concept of reality is like in a way sort of fundamentally sort of flawed because not everything is not I wouldn't say that everything of my reality is material. Like surely I don't know, I think humans we don't just live within we then don't just live within like reality. Like surely we also have this sort of disturbed, sort of perverted normality of sort of subconscious perception as well.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that's interesting then. So, for you, then reality isn't just the material, what we can see, it is this distorted, like you said, this distorted perception that every unique person has.
I just think that it's interesting that I don't know, reality is the state of what's like real, but like as obviously dreams and stuff, like they aren't sort of classed as real and different imaginary things and your subconscious and all of that, like then surely that's not real, but it obviously
Mm.
is. It's just I think that humanity is sort of this sort of merged um sort of conscious and subconscious perception.
Mm. Yeah, no, I get you. So, hypothetical question again. If there was a pill that you could take that would essentially allow you to consciously understand all that the subconscious understands, so you could actually process it, talk about it, think through it consciously, would you take it? And if not, or if so, why?
um I that's interesting. I feel like I would be tempted to, but then also I think that there's a reason why our brains can't do that because I think I think it would just be a bit I think it would just be too much, wouldn't
Mm.
it? Because I mean, as we've like talked about, like even for like different aspects of shock and different things that people might go through, like the brain just automatically um sort of distorts that or focuses on other things.
Hmm.
And I think there's obviously like a reason that it does that because I don't know if I don't know, maybe we can cope if we
Mm.
could like
Yeah.
understand everything.
Maybe that's where like schizophrenic people come from, like the condition comes from.
Yeah.
Maybe like that sort of thing. Like maybe it's people getting too much of an understanding of their subconscious, and then they go quote unquote crazy.
Yeah.
Hmm. Interesting then. Yeah, yeah. Fair enough. I suppose I hadn't really thought about that. I was kind of looking at it from a red pill or blue pill kind of perspective. But yeah, like yeah, if the brain couldn't cope with it, that's weird. Yeah, that's kind
Yeah.
of it for my
I
questions then.
think
Oh, go on.
yeah.
No, go on.
I was just gonna I've forgotten what I was gonna say.
Sorry.
I think no, it's gone, sorry.
No problem. If you do think of it and remember before the end of the podcast, then just feel free to just randomly shout it
I'll
out.
probably yeah, I mean I'll probably remember it after.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, apologies for that then. So yeah, that's kind of it for.
Okay,
You've got it.
yeah, I just remembered.
Okay, cool.
I was just kind of thinking about sort of I think even when you try and think about it, like you have all these really sort of overwhelming existential thoughts, like even trying to think about it is
Mm,
this sort of really kind of strange experience that can
mm,
make you feel quite unsettled and anxious, like trying to think about like the purpose of life
yeah,
and like
yeah.
why do we exist and all of that. Even trying to think about it
Mm,
like makes you feel a bit crazy. Like I think like let alone if you actually knew.
yeah,
But I
true.
don't
To be
know,
fair.
maybe then that aspect of the unknown is what is so
Maybe.
scary.
Yeah. I
But
suppose we can
I
never
don't
really
know.
know.
No.
No, because like I did ethics and philosophy at A level, which obviously a lot of that comes down to thinking about not just the purpose of life, but is there a life wider than the physical real world? Obviously, sort of referring to like God, etc. And like
Yeah.
when I was sitting there thinking for like essay questions, I found myself kind of sitting there for like hours on end, thinking, just literally thinking about these issues, and I remember feeling quite anxious or unsettled, almost like something was about to push me over the edge of like a waterfall. Is kind of what it felt like. It
Yeah,
was kind of weird.
yeah. I think that, yeah, I think also it's just, I don't know, all of these sort of concepts, and then I always, in my art, I always kind of think about that aspect of our humanity compared to like how fragile and how sort of transient our physical bodies are. So I don't know, I always think kind of how do we sort of comprehend that like immenseness of our conscious like and subconscious being in relation to the sort of and the complex, we do have very complex physical forms as well, of course, but like how do we sort of compare that to the truth of our very like ephemeral transient existence?
Mm. Mm. Do you think people should be more focused on trying to understand and comprehend the physical body, the mortality of it, or do you think we'd be better served trying to understand that transient element?
um I think that, I mean, recently I've become more interested in the actual physical body and like, um, I got a couple of like surgery books for Christmas and like anatomy books, and because I'm finding like all the forms and like just the everyday processes that we go through inside us, compared to like what we're doing on this on the outside.
Mm.
Because obviously, like just eating, like, I'm so concentrated on eating all the time. But just eating as an example, like obviously we take in the food, but then our body's still inside. We're still doing all this stuff. We're doing all the digestion and everything. And obviously that's not something we think about, but like we are doing it, and there's always stuff going on inside us to keep us alive. But it's never something we really sit and think about every day. We don't need to think about it to do it, obviously. So I think that I don't know. I think that obviously all of the conceptual stuff is really interesting. So I think it's so interlinked with the physical side of it, though, that I don't know if you could kind of separate and say, like, okay, I'm going to look at the mental side rather than the
It's all
physical
interconnected, yeah.
side. I think it's so, yeah, it's so interconnected. I don't think you can split it up like that.
Mm. Yeah, fair enough. So almost by understanding one, you're gonna gain some understanding into the
Yeah,
other.
yeah.
That's made me think as well, like back to my pill question. If you were to take a pill that allowed you to consciously understand everything the subconscious currently deals with, that would then surely mean you would have to consciously think about making your heart beat and your lungs breathe and your body digest. Like that's
Yeah.
creepy now.
Oh yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, that would yeah, and as I said, I think that would just be too much. I think you'd probably
yeah.
just end up dying.
Oh yeah, because if you always had to be thinking about keeping your
You
body
can't.
running, yeah, you wouldn't be able to think about anything else. God.
No,
Okay, no, I wouldn't take that pill.
no,
That's my answer. I
no.
specifically didn't answer because I felt like you was going to say something that would make me change my mind. So
Okay. Yeah, I think just stay away from the pills.
yeah,
Really.
just stay away. They're not
Don't
good.
take them.
Not good. All right,
No, I
cool.
think we're good as we are.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, we're chill. We can just sit here. We can
Okay.
eat. We can.
We're not perfect, but you
We're,
know.
we're not we're not perfect, but we get to go around. We get to eat. We get to chill. We get to do whatever. We don't need to worry about making our heart beat.
I think that no, I think that we have the balance that we have for a reason.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like yeah, evolution has got us to where we are now for a reason.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, cool. Well, that's actually all of my questions. So, do you have any more questions or anything you want to talk about specifically?
Um, I don't think that I do. Um, no, I mean, I've I have recently sort of been looking at disgust as well, because obviously this whole like our insides do quite often disgust us, of course, and maybe sometimes probably our mental thought sometimes can disgust us as well, especially sort of intrusive stuff sometimes. But I think that I've just been looking at sort of, are we disgusted at like by our existence as these sort of unpleasant ephemeral beings, and are we disgusted by our mortality and our fragility?
Jeez. Yes, that might be another element as to why we don't comprehend the subconscious. Because if we went around feeling disgusted by ourselves all the time, then that would lead to like severe depression, surely all the time.
I think that it's quite unavoidable to not be a bit grossed out by some inside stuff like our innards and everything. And obviously,
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You did have this subconscious knowledge, then yeah, no.
No, because like I mean, I'm even consciously, like I was looking at your art with the mouths and the tongues, and like that disgusted me, and that's a conscious thing. Like, why would I be disgusted by a mouth that most people anyway have? Like, I have a mouth, I have a tongue, I have teeth, so why would I be disgusted by it? But yeah, like, and then it seeps into the conscious because that I find that disgusting, and there are people that find most natural parts of like human body disgusting, like. I mean, for example, you look at if somebody has a monobrow, for argument's sake, like some people anyway, find that disgusting. But it's like that is generally like naturally how most eyebrows grow, for argument's sake. Some people find like the idea of sex disgusting, but like that's a natural thing that has to happen.
Yeah, I think hair is definitely one of those things that can easily sort of evoke disgust. I mean, the last thing that I posted on Instagram that you thought was smoke or whatever, like, that was spaghetti in the bathtub, and I was kind of thinking about sort of hair and like that sort of unfamiliar hair, like interlaced within your food.
Oh.
That kind of,
yeah.
That kind of thing. Because I think that's.
Yeah, see, the thing that really disgusted me.
Disgust, and that can ruin.
Gone. Oh. I've just read the caption to that post actually.
No, sorry.
Oh no, yeah, because I'll tell you why that one specifically disgusted me. The spaghetti in the sink or the bathtub. It's because I actually imagined eating that. Like, I was like, imagine eating that after it's been in the bath and it's wet and it's grim. That's what disgusted me. Like the thought of eating it.
Yeah. No, that's really. Yeah, that's definitely a part of it. I don't know if that's like our whole sort of part of it, because obviously when you're thinking about food, and I think that it's also very sort of cultural and societal when you're thinking about food and hair, because obviously say you saw, this is like relating to like a study that Darwin did, but say you saw like some food and like a man's beard hair, like that you can find that quite disgusting before, obviously, as you said, like the thought of eating it would ever occur to you. Like, if that could even occur to you, you would find it disgusting. You might find it disgusting before that. I think that a lot of people are kind of put off by seeing sort of linen and food and hair. I think that that's quite a normal sort of thing, I'd say.
Yeah.
But I think that is also sort of quite a societal kind of thing of sort of that then they aren't able to keep themselves in regulation with these sort of boundaries or hierarchies, that they're not following the like sort of social kind of rules of keeping yourself presentable. And I think that that's kind of part of stuff as well.
Why is it you think then, like looking at, let's say, body hair, like in the UK and generally in like Western societies, people find, like for example, you use the example of beards, having food in, Beards generally are kind of, in the UK anyway, generally seen as more scruffy, less kept. And you look at like body
Yeah.
hair on women, for example, like armpit hair. A lot of people will look at that and say like, oh, that's disgusting. Why do you think it is then that in some societies, like you look at countries like France, for example, body hair, especially on women, is normal there? Like if you see a woman without armpit hair in France, that's actually then weird. Why do you think there's that kind of disparity?
Yeah, um, I think that I'd say that that's actually, I mean, just thinking about the fact that obviously um, it's seen as better, like if you're not hairy. I think that that is sort of somewhat to do with, again, obviously thinking about mortality, because I think that we try and avoid, um, obviously, sort of signs of, and like, oh, what's the word? Sort of, oh, what's the word?
Deterioration?
Just things that remind us,
Oh,
like
okay.
no, like reminders of the fact that we are mortal, because that um, I think hairiness can remind us of animals, and I think a lot of the time we do see animals as kind of disgusting in some ways,
Mm.
because they're a lot less shameful about a lot of things, or
Oh
I
god,
don't
yeah,
know,
yeah. Animals don't have that
and they
like
can be
moral
seen, yeah,
compass, do they? They don't have the rules. Like,
no,
like
no,
I know that like incest is normal in animal kingdoms. Like for example. So
yeah,
yeah, yeah, it could be
yeah,
definitely.
yeah. So I think that I don't know. I think that kind of in taking away their hair, we're sort of making sure that we deny that sort of disgusting,
Right, to
like
differentiate ourselves
animalness
almost.
that we have. Yeah, yeah, exactly. That sort of animalness that we have to ourselves. And I think again in that, we're also considering our mortality, because I think that we sort of deny the truth that we are animals, because that does remind us of our mortality and the fact that we will die. Like we do assert this sort of superiority
Hmm.
over animals, of course. Like kind of as you were saying earlier, like about with the apes and stuff. Like we obviously do have this. We're like at the top of this sort of hierarchy, and
Yeah.
I think that that is to do with morality as well.
Mm.
We're sort of trying to assert ourselves as like superior beings that don't. We're just above all of that sort of disgustingness, even though it's like obviously part of our humanity as well. We kind of try to deny it, I think.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. That could go back down to like the conscious trying to suppress our understanding and like the way we look at things.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah,
Interesting. Yeah. No, I never looked at it like that. Because yeah, like I shave my face because I mean partly because my beards are shit, but but equally, yeah, like it's very easy to yeah look at people and be like, oh, he's got a monobrow, he's got a beard, he's like scruffy, he's not looking after himself. But yeah, no, it could just be a let's separate ourselves from animals that we perceive ourselves to be better than.
yeah.
But in
I
reality,
think
that's not necessary. We're not necessarily better than animals in a lot of ways.
no. I think that it's also interesting in the opposite kind of way as well, because I think in general, like, yeah, just as a general thing, if an animal is more naked, we tend to see it as more disgusting. And I don't
Mm,
know, I feel like that's because we are then reminded of ourselves. So you can see it in the opposite way as well. If we're hairy, we're more like them, but then the less hairy animals, we are then again reminded of
mm.
ourselves.
Yeah, no, you look at like naked rats or Siamese
Yeah,
cats, that sort of thing. Like I know Siamese cats aren't necessarily naked, but
yeah,
you know, yeah, no, I get what you're
yeah.
saying. Yeah. Oh no, what is
I
that
know what
cat that's
you
actually
mean.
naked?
Yeah.
I'll have to look at that now.
Uh, I have no. I know what you mean. I don't know.
Oh, Sphinx cat. That's what I'm thinking of, not Siamese.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, they are.
yeah,
I mean, they are categorically freaky-looking things. Like I've got a video up there. Yeah,
yeah.
that they are freaky-looking creatures. Like, but yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It's just almost
Yeah,
anything that makes
yeah,
us seem similar to animals is just disgusting. Either because it's a reflection of how
yeah,
disgusting ourselves, or simply because we don't want to appear to be on their level.
yeah. I think another part of it is also perhaps the fact that I don't know, I think we also sort of at the same time we sort of have this like kind of offsetting appreciation of some animals as well. Like we don't have any like we obviously like admire sort of lions or something, like or like to say to someone like, oh, like you're lion like, or say to a guy that like that's a positive
Yeah.
thing. But then I think I don't know, I think we also kind of we don't I don't know how to put this. So even though we have this like need and haste to assert this superiority over animals, we also have this sort of jealousy towards them because they can obviously apart from the sort of mental side of stuff, like they have the physicalities and the ability to obviously do anything that we can do,
Mm.
but they also do it with these coatings of hair. They also do it without this sort of naked shame that we kind of have. I don't know. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of sort of ideas, obviously, about our nakedness and shame. Like they obviously they do. They have a lot of capabilities, but they do also do it with hair. So I think that in consideration of that, and just in consideration of the physicalities, humanity actually kind of makes for a really sort of weak species of beast.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. Especially considering we're meant to be like the apex predator. Like if I was to go into a one-on-one fight with a bear, I lose every time. Even a monkey or an ape
Yeah,
or a gorilla, I lose. Like
yeah,
there's no way I win that.
yeah, exactly. But we still kind of place ourselves above them all.
Mm.
But really, like as an animal, we're a bit pathetic, like physically.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, because we can't climb trees very well anyway. We can't swing from
Physically.
vines. We can't. We're not even that great at hunting. Like if for most people, if they like if you were told like,
We don't have teeth. We don't have like, yeah.
God, yeah, we don't have anything. Like
Sorry.
no, that's right. Like lions, for
I was
example.
just
That
saying we don't have like the
gone.
teeth, the claws.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, we don't have the teeth, the claw. We don't have
I
tail.
think it's the internet. Sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry,
We
my
don't.
internet as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, like we don't have anything that would make you an apex predator, and I think actually I've read somewhere that that's actually because
No.
we became the apex predator that we've then evolved to become soft because we didn't need to hunt. We didn't need to hunt. We didn't need to climb trees to hide because we're at the top of
Mm,
the hierarchy. You almost just evolve to become soft because you don't need it anymore.
yeah. We. Yeah. Yeah. In like a animal view, we've like is it devolved? I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that a word? I don't know if that's a word.
Devolution is
Like,
yeah.
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 I mean, you see that a
Oh yeah.
lot though, like not just on an evolutionary standpoint, but you see that from like a societal standpoint. You know, like once, like look at the Roman Empire, for example. You saw that it
Mm,
was the Roman Empire essentially established themselves as the greatest power in the world, and then they became soft, and then like this is what's happening in humanity, what happens in society, and yeah,
yeah.
eventually it just leads to some sort of collapse in most cases, anyway.
Yeah.
It's definitely interesting. It'll be interesting to see where the future goes with it for sure. Like, what will we evolve into? Will we become
Yeah.
more of this same soft, pathetic
No.
animal,
Yeah.
or will we start trending back towards becoming an apex predator? Who knows?
Yeah. No, that's so interesting. Like what humanity will look like and be like within like I don't know how long. I don't really know much about evolution. I don't know how long it kind of takes for there to be really noticeable
Oh,
changes. But that's
millions and
really
millions
interesting.
and billions of years. So long. So long.
Yeah. So, well, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think we'll be here in millions of years. But if we were to be,
Speak for yourself. I'm immortal. Yeah, no, I don't think I'd want to be there anyway. Great, 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 great,
no.
great kids maybe, but yeah, no, it'd be
Yeah.
interesting to see for sure. I mean, the world may not even exist at that point. Who knows? Meteorite,
No.
everything's gone.
I'm not that. I'm not that optimistic about that. To be honest.
Luckily, it's not our
Not
problem.
sure.
We don't need to worry about that.
No. Well, I think in some ways it's kind of some aspects of it um, are obviously present, but
Oh yeah,
hopefully
like
not the really dramatic stuff.
yeah, like don't get me wrong. Yeah, be conscious of like global warming and those kind of issues
Yeah,
because like setting it up for the future generations. But do we realistically need to worry about creating some sort of plan in case a meteorite hits us and blows up the world? Nah. But yeah, be conscious of some issues like global warming, like those kind of issues for sure.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
I don't know. I think that there's
Go on.
yeah.
Now go on.
Just gonna say there are certain things like what is it? I think I don't know certain things that we use that just won't be sustainable for much longer. Like different things, obviously coal and
Mm.
whatever. So there are definitely parts of that are present today. But
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
I
definitely
know,
there
I
are
know,
issues. Sorry, go on.
yeah, I know that it's not. I know that it's not obviously that much longer if we even can reverse sort of all the damage we've done. If it's that much longer till it's sort of permanent and we can't do anything about it.
Yeah, either way, it can't hurt to be conscious about it and kind of do what we can because at the end of the day, if it is irreversible, we're still making positive changes, and if it isn't reversible, sorry, if it is reversible, then we're making the positive changes and reversing it. If it isn't
Yeah,
reversible, then either way, we're still making the positive changes and stopping it from getting worse. So,
yeah, yeah,
mm, yeah, no, I mean, this is the exact reason that like I'm trying to be more conscious of my like waste in terms of like food packaging, especially plastics. Like
hmm
I'm actively trying to move away from using plastics. Period.
yeah,
Like for example, it's rare that I do, but if I was to eat a pot noodle, then I don't eat it in the plastic. Like it's
yeah,
not I don't really eat them because at the end of the day, it's still got that level of waste, and they're not tasting great anyway. But if I do eat one, I never eat it in the plastic because of the actual negative health impacts as well that are caused by having
yeah,
plastic containers.
yeah,
So yeah, I definitely think it's worth being kind of more conscious and like aware of these specific issues like coal, like plastics, like waste, like global warming, just so even if it doesn't affect us as a generation, it can affect our kids and our grandchildren and all that sort of stuff.
yeah. I think that I think yeah, ultimately, like everyone needs to sort of decide upon and act upon what changes they think are actually realistic for
Hmm.
them to make. Because obviously, I think that, and I think once you do make tiny changes, like over time, when you're making more small changes, like you've actually ended up making quite a big change.
Hmm.
I mean, just thinking about sort of veganism or whatever, like obviously if you go from like eating loads of meat and dairy just straight away being vegan, like that's not like you can do it, people do it, but like quite often that's not a very realistic thing to do. And I think that gradually cutting out things or like just eating less, like literally as I kind of said earlier, just having like one day a week where you don't eat meat for the day
Hmm.
or whatever is a really positive thing.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, I'm looking at it from the
Mm,
perspective
yeah,
of me as like a business owner. Like, I never look at this big task that I want to achieve and then just do that task. It's always a
no,
case of break it down into smaller things, do incremental little changes
yeah,
every day, and then, like you say, eventually you get to your end goal.
yeah, yeah. No, it is a case of splitting up. Even if you don't know what your overall goal might be, like I didn't become pescatarian like 6 years ago thinking, oh, I'm going to end up being vegan. Like I probably didn't even know what it was, to be honest. So, yeah, I think that even if you don't know what your overall goal is, like you need to just take these little steps.
Thought we could have got through the rest of it without without your headphone falling out.
Nope.
Yeah, no, makes sense though. Take it one day at a time, one step at a time, incrementally implement that, and then eventually you can get to where you want to. And yeah, it's always
Yeah.
a case of keep learning more, keep improving it as it goes. Like you say, you probably didn't even know what veganism was, and then you learn what veganism was, and
No.
you understand. Okay, well I can take this one step further. I can have more of an impact, etc.
Yeah.
Hmm,
Yeah.
cool, really interesting then. So, is there anything else you wanted to ask, talk about, sort of share before we head off?
No, I think that's everything.
Okay, awesome.
Really.
Well, it's been
I mean, I
absolutely.
feel like
Oh, go on,
yeah.
go on.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying. I feel like obviously you can talk about some of the stuff we've talked about endlessly,
Oh
but
God, yeah.
I think we've covered. I think we've covered some basics of stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. We've definitely covered a lot of stuff, but like you say,
Yeah.
we can always have you on another episode in the future and talk about one of these issues for a 6 hour podcast, like a 24-hour podcast episode.
Yeah, that's true. It's 24 hours. I'm not sure I could do that. Sorry.
No, even me, don't worry. I mean, it would take a lot of coffee, but no.
Yeah. I just
Yeah.
have all my meals lined up.
We'll have a buffet. We'll just literally have like all the food just laid out in like a big buffet style, and then whenever we get hungry, just go and eat.
Yeah. I mean, I've got my emergency banana right here, so I'm already starting.
Did you have that there just in case you got hungry in the podcast?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I get hungry like, and this isn't because I'm vegan. This is just me. Like, I
Yeah.
just like eating. Yeah. I was worried I'd get hungry.
I would have died honestly if you'd started eating a banana randomly.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. But I just thought, what if I feel so hungry? But
Yeah.
I just need the option. I just needed the option.
Yeah, that's fair
That's
enough.
all.
I go through weird stages. Like sometimes I get really hungry really easily, but then like now, for example, I've not eaten anything today at all, and I'm not hungry. Like no, I go
Really?
through phases, so it's weird. Like there's times where I've just like
Hate it when
last year I did a 3 day fast where I literally ate no food for 3 days, and I didn't get hungry
Really?
at all. But then there's other times where I'm like, I haven't eaten in 20 minutes and now I'm hungry. Don't know.
Yeah. No, I do understand that, but yeah, no, fasting is something that I will never go near. Also, I don't get it when people don't eat like the whole day. But
I mean, it's difficult because like I work out and I would never fast on a day where I work out because I get really lightheaded and sick.
no.
So it's not good for you in terms
Yeah, no,
of
that would just be stupid.
exactly. Like I categorically like I'm like right, okay, I'm fasting today. I'm just not going to work out. But then equally, I have seen positive benefits from doing it. Like
Yeah.
I don't normally eat breakfast, so I normally do what is called like
Yeah.
intermittent fasting.
I thought I kind of assumed that you didn't eat breakfast
Why did you assume that?
after what you just said.
Oh,
No, because you just said that you hadn't eaten today, and I thought if you ate breakfast normally, then you would have eaten today.
yeah,
I don't know. I
possibly.
don't like it when people don't eat breakfast.
Oh God. Why don't you like it?
But I just think, just as soon as you wake up, like you just need some food.
See, I can't think
How
of
do you
anything
not just want
worse.
to eat?
I can't think of anything worse. When I
Yeah,
first
it's
wake up, I'm
strange.
like, I don't want to eat. I'm just like, ugh. Like, get
Yeah.
me a coffee and I'm good to go.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Jack moans at me because as soon as I wake up, I'm off to get food.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, and I mean, actually, it does make sense. Like throughout history, people have eaten breakfast first thing, like the second you wake up, and it's
Yeah,
because I mean, it's called break fast, so it literally is to
yeah,
break the fast of the dinner
yeah.
to the
Yeah,
breakfast. Go on.
I think that obviously from dinner to then the morning, like that is
Mm,
quite a decent amount of time,
yeah.
hopefully, for normal people. For most people, I'm just saying, like, because I know Jack will eat like at whatever time in the night, and then
Oh God.
I don't know. But most of the time, that's quite a long amount of time.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I probably should start
So
eating breakfast.
I think that it just makes sense to eat.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
definitely does make sense, and I mean, to be fair, it probably wakes you up because you're getting that hit of energy. And there are times where I do eat
yeah,
breakfast,
yeah,
but sometimes, like today, I woke up and I'm like, I'm not hungry, and then it got to lunchtime and I'm like, I'm not hungry, so I'm just not going to eat. Um,
yeah.
but yeah,
I don't know. I think that even if I'm not hungry, I'm that is just such a key part of my routine to eat. Like even if I'm not hungry at lunchtime, it doesn't matter. Like it's lunchtime.
I mean, I do get that. I do get that. I mean, it's obviously it's helping you experience the world through taste, so it's for
Yeah,
research anyway.
yeah. Well, I am just like I do just love food, so
Mm. Oh yeah,
doesn't
no,
matter if I'm
food is
hungry.
wonderful. Food is by
Yeah,
far one of the best things on the planet.
it is. It is. I will never understand the people that just eat to survive,
Yeah, no,
or just eat
yeah,
because you have to eat.
like no, I do agree with that. Like it is rare where I choose not to eat over eating for sure, for sure. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, cool. Right, well, if it's all right with you, then I'm gonna wrap this episode up. It's been fantastic chatting with you, and yeah, we talked about a lot of really interesting, mind-bending stuff. And I'm sure there's going to be a ton of questions asked by our viewers. So, yeah, it's been really interesting. So, thank you for coming
Thank you
on,
very much.
and thank you for sharing
Thank
your
you for having
experiences
me.
as well, because
Thank
you've gone really like deep and personal, which is fantastic.
you. That's fine. Thank you.
No problem. So, for everyone watching slash listening, wherever you are in the world, I'm going to put Chloe's art account and your personal Instagram. Okay, I'll put that in the description.
Yeah.
Make sure you give
Yeah.
Chloe a follow. Feel free to ask either her or myself any questions you have about anything we've talked about today. And as always, send us an email at theregalpodcast@gmail.com if you have any questions specifically for the podcast and or you want to come on as a guest yourself. So this has been Jordan and Chloe. We've been talking to you about veganism, about our relationships with animals, and even about our understanding of the subconscious. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you guys next week.